Welcome to the Awesomers.com podcast. If you love to learn, and if you're motivated to expand your mind, and heck, if you desire to break through those traditional paradigms and find your own version of success, you are in the right place. Awesomers around the world are on a journey to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. We believe in paying it forward, and we fundamentally try to live up to the great Zig Ziglar quote, where he said, "You can have everything in your life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." It doesn't matter where you came from, it only matters where you're going. My name is Steve Simonson, and I hope you will join me on this awesomer journey.
If you're launching a new product manufactured in China, you will need professional, high-resolution, Amazon-ready photographs. Because Simo Global has a team of professionals in China, you will oftentimes receive your listings photographs before your product even leaves the country. This streamlined process will save you the time, money, and energy needed to concentrate on marketing and other creative content strategies before your item is in stock and ready for sale. Visit simoglobal.com to learn more, because a picture should be worth 1,000 keywords.
You're listening to episode number 125 of the Awesomers.com podcast series. And that means all you need to do is go to awesomers.com/125 to see today's show notes details. Sometimes there's a nice little summary and even a transcript for your edification there at the awesomers.com website. So definitely take a look at that. Now, today is a part 2 of our 3-part episodes with my good buddy and brilliant tactician and entrepreneur, Rob Jackson. Now, Rob is a leading mind in the world of analytics, data attribution, and really a top expert. And we're lucky to have him to talk about some of these big picture things, not to mention his own origin story, which is fascinating in its own right. So we're going to jump back into the story midway. And yesterday we talked a little bit about his origin. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about some of those defining moments. And let's get into that story right now. All right, here we are again, everybody. Steve Simonson, joined again by Rob Jackson, and we're talking, I'll give you a little review. What we talked about already was some of the background of where Rob came from, and the fact that Liverpool has its own language, essentially, and the golden nugget was Liverpudlian, for those keeping score at home, so I love that. But Rob, today I want to get into this idea of, you talked about university. Talk a little bit more about that, and then what your first job was out of university.
Sure, yeah. So I did computer science at uni. This was back in the day. I went to university in 2001. So I was coding in Notepad back then. There were no visual editors or anything like that. Everything was Windows 98. So it's quite a different world than the one today. But I guess what was great about it, it was a broad view of the computer science world. So we did little bits of HTML and website building, little bits of SQL, little bits of AI, little bits of neural networks. So even though it was only a bachelor's degree, it sort of gave me quite a good appreciation of the different aspects to that technology world that were out there. But I think, like most kids, I came out and was sort of looking for any job I could get. And it's actually quite funny that I was looking in the local newspaper, as you do back in 2004, when it wasn't so easy to find jobs on the internet. And lo and behold, I see a job advert for a digital marketing agency called Latitude, and it had the word internet in it. And I thought, well, I've done a computer science degree. This has got to be something to do with me. And I think there's an irony in finding an internet job in a local newspaper.
Yeah, dripping with irony.
Yeah. And I joined them right at a time when the search marketing industry was booming. It was, that would have been right at the beginning of 2006. So that whole space was exploding at the time. And Latitude, right back then, they were there or thereabouts to one of the top search marketing companies in the UK, and there was a real culture and an environment of achievement. So there was like a group of other kids who were similar to me coming out of university, who were all quite ambitious, and they really leveraged that sort of positive feeling about the sort of trajectory of the industry at that time. And yeah, I was really lucky. I was fast tracked into a management program. So I I was very much like I sort of did campaign management, but I was very much on the analytical side. I think my strengths often from a production point of view lay really in data analysis. I think I knew quite early on that I enjoyed the more technical side of digital marketing, so I sort of gravitated to that tech side, and then I was put into, like I said, a management program, and I ended up quite quickly doing some international operations in India. So they said, would anyone be interested in living in India for 7 months to run our offshore? And I said, yes, that sounds absolutely fantastic. And had a great cultural experience over there. I was there for 7 months. I took a team of there was 7 people initially, but by the time I left, it went up to 17, and we hit all of our targets, and had an incredible experience doing that, of doing a leadership role that was way out of my comfort zone, that was something completely different to anything I'd done before. And actually, I think, doing something like that and then going back to work in the UK 7 months later gave me quite a nice outside perspective of coming back to my old job as well. And I think that was quite a big turning point in my career, because I remember coming back and with that outside perspective, I remember writing an email to my boss saying, I'm really concerned that, we're not really looking at some of the most important innovative aspects of our industry. We're not looking properly at marketing attribution. We need to do more with digital analytics. We need to do more with cross-device as mobile was emerging. We need to do more with conversion optimization. And he replied and said, yeah, the CEO wants to see you. And so I just assumed there was
it's hard to say if that's good news or bad news.
Yeah, no, I definitely assumed it was bad. And he called me into his office and said, I absolutely agree with everything you put in this email, my sort of mini Jerry Maguire moment. And he said, I'd like you to move to London and set up an operation within the business to tackle those challenges. So I think I'd literally been home from India a matter of weeks, and I was packing up again, and then moving down to London to launch a department. So that would have been in 2007, 2008. That would have been. That was when I moved down to London, and was the little kid in the big city, I guess, for the first time, which was also really good fun.
Yeah, I imagine the contrast. What city in India were you in?
Pune.
Okay, yeah. So Pune, many cities in India are big by default, but very different regardless of the size between Pune and London, right? The contrast must have been staggering.
Absolutely, yeah. It was. I mean, interesting as well, because obviously India has a real solid IT education system. So I actually met lots of computer scientists when I was over there. The team I was working with were very strong from a technical capability, but it also helped that Goa was just a short bus ride in the other direction as well. So I had Mumbai, north of Pune, which is obviously incredible cultural center, and then Goa south for the weekends when I wanted to get to Maranhar and relax on the beach. So yeah, the overall it was an incredible experience, and one I'd highly recommend to anyone.
Yeah, plus the beaches to the south of London are not, they're beautiful in many ways, but they're just not as weekend getaway type spots.
No, I like Brighton. Brighton is a great weekend getaway. I've got some great friends there. You just won't catch me in the water.
It's freezing, yeah. It's just cold. Crazy. Yeah, crazy cold. So you talked about, some of that energy that you putting into this new department. Was there a defining moment between then and now that kind of put you on the road where you ended up on with your own agency?
Yeah, I went to, in 2009, so we had really good success in we called it the conversion analytics department. So it was taking analytical principles, digital website conversion, and sort of marrying that with the search marketing component of the business. But I went to a Google conference in California in 2009, and I'd never been to the West Coast before. I've been to the East Coast quite a few times, and I've got friends from New York and stuff. But when I was in California, I was really struck by the sort of entrepreneurial vibe that I think was happening around that time. I think the sort of, obviously the emergence of Google and, you know, a lot of those tech giants. I just remember hanging around in the Bay Area and being overwhelmed by this sort of positivity, this sort of drive to create things and stuff like that. And I think I knew straight away when I was there that I was going to start my own business. I wasn't quite sure in that moment what it was going to be. And then a week later in Palo Alto, I met a couple of chaps who just started a analytics company in Barcelona called webanalytics.es. And they were looking for a business partner in the UK. They said, Rob, we're looking to take over analytics and digital analytics in the UK and Spain, and we're looking for someone who has got the Liverpudlian charm. And
yeah, what a funny.
We hit it off so well. It was a British guy called Mike Potts and a Catalan fellow called Pere Rovira. Pere, if you look him up as well, is one of the superstars of data in Spain. He runs in a fantastic company now called One Tandem, which is an incredible data visualization agency. But yeah, it was the timing, the backdrop of the Bay Area, and I think a couple of beers as well were involved. And yeah, I came back to the UK, went into conversation with them, and then within a few months we decided to do a joint venture. I was leading up the UK side of it. They were going to head up the Spain side. One of the stipulations that I had when I was negotiating with them was that I was going to be allowed to come to Barcelona regularly and visit them.
Oh, yes. Clever. Yeah.
Baked in. And yeah, and then that was a really different experience, because whereas maybe Latitude when I joined was 120 people, it was a company that was well on the way to doing its first, taking on board its first big investment. The DBI outfit was very much like a family. There was only 20 people when I joined. I was number one in the UK. I was on my own in the UK for the first few months, and it was this that incredible sort of family feeling of a unit, of everybody on the same page, pulling in the same direction, all being really creative and supporting each other in a myriad of different ways. And yeah, it was just an incredible experience to do that, and across two different cultures as well, to sort of be another old world port city, Barcelona, also on that same arc as Liverpool. And then really, something I massively enjoyed was not having any excuses anymore. So the team I put together in London, there was no one to blame anymore if it wasn't the right fit. And that original team of guys I put together, I just remember thinking it was the best team I'd ever worked in, and to have that ability to shape something from the outset was an amazing experience. And we're all still very close friends to this day. And so we'd have this sort of cultural overlap with the Spanish team. We were doing some great work. We picked up some fantastic clients. We grew quickly in the first years, and then, of course, we were acquired by the Havas Media Group in 2013, and yeah, in 2013 that happened as well. So
amazing, yeah. So a lot of progress. Now, one of the things that I think a lot of the folks out there, especially those who've put together startups, we know the feelings of excitement and the buck stops here, and all of these types of feelings of we're gonna do it together, or die trying. But what was the one of the secrets to growing so quickly? How did you guys kind of hit the ground running so fast?
Well, that's a good question. I think, because I worked predominantly in the service side of the digital marketing industry and of the digital business industry, I think I really set out to have a set of very basic principles in the beginning. I think the idea was ultimately we as a collective, we had a job to be smarter than any team that the client could put together internally in our given space. And I think once we worked towards that end, once we were putting different types of sets of expertise together and encouraging collaboration between them, we didn't need to really pitch then. So I think I sort of maybe became a little bit frustrated with in the agency world. It's about creating this, image of how well your company's going to be able to do the job. Whereas what I said to the guys, actually, we don't need to pull out any BS. We don't need to oversell ourselves. We don't need to pull the wool over the client's eyes or try and make, margins where they don't exist. Because what we're going to do, we're going to do a good job. We're going to do it on time. And we're going to do stuff that really adds value to the client's business proposition. And what I always try to say to the team in the beginning was, we're not a supplier. Our goal is to become a very important part of the client's internal team. And that came about by doing a really good job, doing it on time, being honest. And ultimately, and this as well, Steve, it's about being nice to people, but relationships are such a core part of any business. And so I really try to encourage that my guys, got to know the clients, spent time with them, spent a lot of time on site with them as well. Go and, find out who worked in the call center and find out, who does what, even if it's outside the scope of what we were doing, because that really bound us to it. And I'll always remember the day when one of our biggest clients, they called us up and said, we're going to take you out. We're going to take you and all the team out for dinner. And I said, well, normally in my experience, it's supposed to be the other way around. It's normally, the supplier taking the clients out for dinner to curry favors. So I remember when that moment happened, thinking we're doing something right there.
Yeah, you're on the right track for sure. Well, there's no doubt that you guys accomplished that mission, and your fast growth was the result of, doing things that seem so obvious, right? Being nice to people, delivering what's promised. Hey, what about if you did it on time, right? These crazy concepts that seem so outrageous. And as people hear them, sometimes they may think, oh, that's trite, or that's easy to say. Everybody wants the silver bullet. Everybody wants the magic recipe. But really just doing what needs done when it needs doing can be a real magic formula for success. That's the ultimate, hack, if you will.
And I think this is it, if more, because I think there's a real trust issue in the sort of agency world at the moment now. You've got, the advertising standards agency in America finding out about, dare I say, fraudulent, practices when it comes to margins and things like that. And I think there's been a damaged relationship between suppliers and clients in the sort of agency space. I think, fortunately for us, because we're an analytics agency, we were very much accountable for anything that we did because we had to produce the numbers to back it up anyway. But I think there's, going back to that thing about it being, part of a relationship, I think if you keep it simple, if you do those things and keep those principles at the core of everything, then the trust will follow and the relationships will grow and blossom and become partnerships as opposed to a client and supplier one.
Yeah, I definitely know, and I can speak firsthand that you guys have executed with excellence in that regard. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the biggest lessons that you've learned along the way, and ultimately, there are some definitely lessons that I know that you've learned, and maybe even your best day in your professional life. So we're going to do that right after this break.
Hey, Amazon Marketplace professionals, this is Parsimony ERP, and we get one question over and over. Can you please tell me exactly what Parsimony does? Well, we'll try, but this is only a 30-second spot, so we're going to have to hurry. Connect to your Seller Central account and pull all the new orders. Enter the orders with all customer data. Enter all of the Amazon fees and charges. Store them at the item level. Generate profit and loss reports at the SKU level. Automatically generate income statements. Handle multiple companies. Handle multiple brands. Handle multiple currencies. Facilitate budgets and forecasts. Store all customer interactions in a sophisticated CRM system. Manage your supply chain. Project and task management. Maintain an audit log. Hey, you get it. That's Parsimony, PARSIMONY.com. Parsimony.com. We've got that.
Catalyst 88 was developed to help entrepreneurs achieve their short and long-term goals in e-commerce markets by utilizing the power of shared entrepreneurial wisdom. Entrepreneurship is nothing if not lessons to be learned. Learn from others, learn from us. I guarantee that we will learn from you. Visit catalyst88.com because your success is our success. Hey, giddy up.
It's always fun to talk to Rob, and you learned in part one of our three-part series that Rob is now living in Lisbon and has lived in all kinds of fun places, from India to being in business, having a partnership in Barcelona. He's just a fun guy and has been around and seen the world, and I really appreciate getting perspectives from folks from all over the world, from all walks of life, who've been around and really understand some of the differences that exist in various parts of the world for different reasons. But one thing is clear: Rob is a world-class expert in analytics and data attribution and kind of understanding how to draw insights from generic data. And that's something that entrepreneurs need, and he's certainly an expert in that respect. And I'm lucky to say that even as he has exited one of his companies and taken a little bit of time as he's freelancing, he's still engaging with a good buddy of mine with a company in the United Kingdom and helping them on a regular basis. This is a great matchup and a great lesson for entrepreneurs out there. When you find a great resource, stick to it, hold them accountable, but have fun along the way. And Rob talks about that idea of having fun and being nice and so forth in this whole series, this three-part series. So again, to review, this is part 2 of a three-part series with Rob Jackson. We'll be back tomorrow with our final part. You won't want to miss it. And this has been episode 125 of the Awesomers podcast series. And so that means you just go to awesomers.com/125 to find today's show notes and details. Well, we've done it again, everybody. We have another episode of the Awesomers podcast ready for the world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program today. Now's a good time to take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. Heck, you could even leave a review if you wanted. Awesomers around you will appreciate your help. It's only with your participation and sharing that we'll be able to achieve our goals. Our success is literally in your hands. Thank you again for joining us. We are at your service. Find out more about me, Steve Simonson, our guest, team, and all the other Awesomers involved at awesomers.com. Thank you again.